for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this. Multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or caving the bottom or hitting that top. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo, this is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh.
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 294 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We are live on the Going for Two Live podcast network every Wednesday and Friday on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and, of course, on all major podcast networks. I'm here with my two co-hosts, as always. First up, we got Mr. Tim Strobel. What's up, Tim?
I'm good, Jeff. I cannot believe that it is week 10. How is it week 10 already?
It's crazy, man. It is definitely crazy. It's funny because I'm doing, on the Wednesday show, we have guests every week, and I book them out a month in advance. And we stopped doing the Wednesday show at the playoffs of the season long. And I just booked my last two guests of the year. It's kind of crazy. And I'm like, shit, that's crazy. We're all at the end of the year already. It's insane.
Absolutely.
Also joining us, as always, Mr. Gerson Aguirre. What's up, G?
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Good, man. Good. All right, so we got a lot to get to tonight. So let's go ahead and jump into the rewind.
The weekly rewind. Rewind.
All right, guys, we'll go to you first, G. Give us your one good, one bad this week.
Yeah, man. Last week, I was clamoring. Oh, I wasn't clamoring. I was pounding the table for what's his name, Travis Etienne. I played him on so many rosters. I think he was probably the highest owned player I had. He blew up. He did awesome. I mean, it was the right spot, and I did awesome with him. But my bad spot was actually Deion Jackson, which he was in a lot of my rosters, man. I didn't see. I think because I asked myself, what didn't I see? I mean, obviously, I didn't see the injury, but what I didn't see is how horrendous they really were. Like, I thought they could move the ball at least, But that offense, I mean, they fired the coach, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I had Deion Jackson in my cash lineup. Luckily, I had a pretty strong lineup. I had Justin Fields, which definitely helped me out. I had Travis Etienne, so that also helped me as well. Tim, what about you? What's your one good, one bad?
Yeah, my one good was Justin Fields. I ended up letting on Justin Fields in cash. That obviously worked out well for me. I had pretty good score in cash last week, but I was able to easily cash thanks to Justin Fields. He was definitely what you kind of had to have. Him or the other guy, which is my one bad, was Joe Mixon. I was on Joe Mixon until basically Damian Harris was confirmed out, and I pivoted to Ramondre. And obviously that didn't end up being worth it. So Justin Fields still got me there, but if I would have had both those guys, it could have been a really good week.
Yeah, Joe Mixon was a miss on my part too. It's funny because there was a guy I talked to on Twitter, and he was all over Joe Mixon, and I was trying to convince him not to play Joe Mixon, and then all of a sudden I'm looking up like, shit, guess I should have listened to him. All right, so yeah, my one good, it's kind of low hanging fruit. He was pretty chalky, but Josh Palmer with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams out, he had a pretty good game. Had him in my cash lineups, that definitely helped out. And my one bad, Aaron Jones. I mean, my goodness, I did not see that coming at all. That
should have been my one bad. I'm sorry. Just recommending any Packers last week was just a terrible call on my part. I apologize to everyone, especially Gerson, who was like, I'm not touching the Packers. And then I was like, no, you should play them. And he's like, okay, I'm sorry, bro.
It's all good. It's all good. We make those mistakes. We live and we learn. And I think Aaron Rodgers was a popular play last week. I mean, it wasn't just you that was on him. He was talking about the cash lineups too. All right, let's get to the quarterbacks.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, Gerson. We all have the same elite guy here, so I'll let you talk about Mr. Patty Mahomes.
You know, my homies, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, man, he's still the elite quarterback. Everybody thought him losing Tyreek Hill was actually going to make a difference. It hasn't made one bit of a difference. And same goes for Tyreek Hill because he's having the greatest wide receiver season so far.
Yep, he's on pace to break records.
But I was like flabbergasted. I don't even know if that's the word I want to use. Like my jaw just dropped that I saw that he threw 68 pass attempts last week.
Yeah, insane.
And I was like, if Patrick Mahomes threw 68 pass attempts, I didn't watch that game. So when my friend told me at work that Patrick Mahomes threw 68 pass attempts, I'm like, what was the score? Like 45, 30, 32 or what? He goes, no, it was 27 or 20 to 17. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know, but 446 yards, 1 touchdown, but still he's almost gotten 30 points game in 3 of the last 4 games. So I mean, he's going to be highly owned too. So I expect him right now. I have him at 16% ownership, facing the Jacksonville Jaguars, one of the worst pass defense in the league, and they're only getting worse by the week. I swear. And I think Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes, it is expensive, but I think he's the safest play of the slate for quarterback, to be honest.
Yeah, I think what's also going to boost his ownership a little bit is the other 2 guys that are around him. You know, Josh Allen being the most expensive. You know, obviously probably hurt, not going to play, and then Kyler Murray is questionable too. He's right below Patrick Mahomes there, so I think that's going to boost Patrick Mahomes' ownership up even more because of that. And I will tell you, whatever the Titans did on defense, every team's to be trying to copycat that because that offense did not look good. Whatever the Titans were doing. They were making the Chiefs look pretty bad there. And I don't know if it was just a scheme thing or if it was something that they, you know, as far as players go, but it'll be a copycat defense from the rest of the season.
Man. Vrabel is such a good coach.
He is. He really is. All right. We'll move down here into the mid-tier.
Lock it in.
We'll go to you, Tim. Your lock of the week is here at the mid-tier.
I am. I'm going back to Justin Fields again this week. I think in my opinion, he's probably the clear cash play this week. I also really like him in tournaments, but I expect he's going to be very highly owned and for good reason. He gets a matchup against the Detroit Lions. Basically, every quarterback not named Aaron Rodgers has done really good against the Detroit Lions. And the best thing I think for Justin Fields is they play a lot of man defense similar to Miami, so he's going to have a lot of opportunities to run. We saw he had like 12 designed runs last week. That 160-yard run, he just outran everybody. It's insane what he can do against any defense, and then he gets the Lions. So at 6,500, I still don't think he's expensive enough. It's probably going to be the last time he's under 7K, so take advantage of it.
Yeah, good stuff there. I think he's QB1 in season-long league since week 5. So, yeah. Gerson, let's go to you on your mid-tier here. Go ahead, G.
Dude, I think I'm going to have to disagree on that. I don't like Justin Fields this week at all. Like, I want nothing to him. I think the ownership is too high. I think the Lions defense has improved. We saw what they did to Green Bay Packers last week. I think from here on, it's going to be basically, you know, Campbell, Rowdy, whatever. But I think I'm out. The ownership is just too high.
No, I understand the ownership. I think I like him a lot more than cash.
Bro, I'm not going to disagree with you 3 weeks in a row. I'm just kidding, dude. I actually do love I love Justin Fields, man. I just wanted to give you crap, dude. No, I love that call for sure. Justin Fields. There's only 3 quarterbacks I really do like this week, and Justin Fields is one of them. And I already mentioned the other one, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of buried the lead a little bit. I guess we'll get to it when we get to the value, but all of us are expecting Josh Allen to either be out or not be 100%, right? He's not playing.
Agreed. So Gerson, you want to talk about Tua, or you want me to talk about Tua?
Gerson always wants to talk about Tua.
I can talk. Yeah, dude. So now we have 5 healthy games, guys. He hasn't died yet. Thank goodness. He had 300. He's averaging 336 yards. 336.8 yards per game, 24.6 points per game, and he got ranked 1st and 3rd among quarterback in the full season. 0.58 points per dropback. That is freaking phenomenal, dude. So say he had, I don't know, 60 dropback, that's almost 30 points, you know. But Tyreek Hill, man, he's just carrying the Tua stacks, along with him. Where Tyreek Hill goes, Tua goes, man. I mean, he's on pace for 1,964 yards. So give me Tua. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him. You are going to have to get creative, though, because you can't double stack Tyreek Hill and Waddle because that's too expensive. So you have to get creative. Maybe you'll be sick.
Well, I guess Gerson did not pay attention to my stack, so
Tim's going to make it happen. Tim's going to make it happen. Yeah. Look at his stack. He's got it in his stack.
Thanks, Gerson. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Tua, I've been victory lapping Tua all season because I wrote up Tua in the offseason for Fantasy Pros, and I went on and on about Tua. And last year he had the highest completion percentage of deep balls over 20 yards. And same thing this year. He's at 59% on passes over 20-plus yards, which is number one in the league. You think, he doesn't throw a lot of deep passes. Well, he's actually third in the league in total deep passes as well. Only Russell Wilson and Josh Allen have more deep passes. So he's doing it all. He's being efficient. He's, completion percentage. His deep ball is there. Obviously, he's got two great playmakers in Waddle and Hill. And the best thing about Tua is his stacking options are obvious, right? You're not worried about the tight end, really. He's not throwing to the running backs that much. It's basically Hill and Waddle. Those are the two guys you want to stack him with. All right, let's move down into the value tier. And I'll talk a little bit. I had a hard time actually picking out my value. I had to kind of reach on a few guys, but I'm going to go with Daniel Jones. Just based solely on the matchup and his running ability, going up against Houston at 5.7. We've seen Jones a few times. I think this year he had a two touchdown rushing game. So I can see something like that happening again this week with Jones. And that Houston side, I think, is good enough offensively to sort of push Daniel Jones to pass it more than they have been in recent weeks. Gerson pointed out that I think Jones' highest passing yardage this week's like 217 yards, something like that. I do think that Houston's bad enough that I think Giants can pass the ball as well as Jones using his legs to meet his value of 5.7. Definitely not a tournament play. He'd be more of, I guess, could be a tournament play, but I'm not one that I would be stacking anybody with. I would probably stack him with maybe Barkley. He'd be the only one I would receive as receiver.
Let's be honest here. You're not going to play him, right?
I mean, not very sparingly. Like I said, I had to reach pretty deep to find a value. I had to find at least one or two values to talk about, so I had to reach deep down there, and that was the guy I picked was Daniel Jones.
Hey, I'll tell you a guy I actually am playing this weekend. Yeah, it kind of makes me sick. First of all, this whole slate makes me sick. That's a different story. But I'm going to play Russell Wilson this weekend. I think the one thing we saw from the other night, as you mentioned about the 68 pass attempts, is you cannot run on Tennessee. Right? They're not going to let you do it. So I think Russ is going to throw the ball 40-plus times in this game. I think it sounds like a perfect, kind of a perfect spot where nobody's going to play him, right? And again, like we were talking about Tua, I think he's got some pretty straightforward stacking options as well. So I actually think Russ is going to go overlooked. Maybe you can tell me what his ownership is, but at 5,900, I think he makes a pretty decent value.
Yeah, that's a good call. I hadn't even looked at Russ. I've become blind to Russ. I just see his name. I just blocked it out.
Yeah. Well, he finally got under 6K. You know what I mean? Like they finally put his price where he should be. I think, where he actually makes it playable.
1.6% own of people are going to ride with him. So let's ride.
Yeah, let's ride.
Gerson, you got one value tier quarterback there. Go ahead and talk about T-Law.
Yeah, man, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I do this all the time, and I think you've always seen it. Quarterback correlation. I mean, if one quarterback projected very high for point, usually the guy on the opposite side, if he can keep up with the score, he's gonna have to too. Is Trevor Lawrence. He's cheap. Like he's 5.4K. If you really think about it, let's say Case Keenum starts. Case Keenum's gonna be 5K, right? I'd rather just play Trevor Lawrence right away.
I completely agree. Lawrence over Keenum.
And then the other thing is Kansas City pass defense. That's the way you beat them. Obviously, I caught myself. Didn't say the F word. Suck it. Anyways, what's their name? Kansas City pass defense is the way you beat them. You don't. I mean, only Malik Willis can't complete 5 passes. Apparently, I mean that's the only quarterback. But I have confidence that Trevor Lawrence can complete more than 5 passes, guys. Now that I said that, he's not going to watch. Anyways, give me Trevor Lawrence at his price. He's cheap. You can actually do a stack with him that's really good. So, I mean, you can bring it back with Kelce. You can, basically do Kirk and Ingram. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do with that. And it allows you to pay up for running back. It allows you to pay up for other positions. So,
Yep.
Give me oh my goodness, Tim, you're hilarious.
All right, Tim, you do have one guy there listed with 3 question marks behind his name. Talk about Keenum a little bit.
No, that's why I put it. Yeah, what Gerson said was exactly what I was going to say. Keenum is not a play for me. I think you spend the extra $400 and you get up to Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, good call. All right, let's get to tight ends.
Did somebody say tight ends?
All right, I'm going to hit the double drop.
Lock it in.
All right, guys, this is, I think, the first time on this show that we've done a lock of the week for tight end. And for me this week, it's Mr. Travis Kelce. I know he's expensive, and I know it's at a position that we typically pay down for, but I'm going to explain my Kelce. So if you ignore the fact that he's a tight end, right, wide receiver, he's averaging 2.1 fantasy points per game. If you were to the receiving pool for this week, he would slot right in between Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams. Jefferson's at 23 points. Adams is at 21 flat. Jefferson is 8,800, and Adams is 8,700. Kelce's only 7,800. He's $1,000 cheaper than those guys. So if he was a receiver, he would be too cheap. He'd be underpriced. So I think Kelce this week is a way to sort of be different because he is very expensive, and people are not going to play the expensive tight ends. I think we'll be paying down at tight end this week. Jacksonville's defense obviously is not great, 22 DVA versus the pass. And the Chiefs had the highest implied total on the slate at 30 points. So, I mean, there's going to be scoring in this game, and we know Mahomes goes to Kelce all the time. So, Kelce is my lock of the week. I've had some bad luck with locks of the week, but I think this one's a pretty safe one. I think I like this one this week.
You better, if you pick Kelce, you jinx him, dude, you better lock of the week for the rest of the year.
I agree.
Yeah, I'll have a new drop for myself. But don't play this guy a week. All right, that's it for the elites here. There's really no elite tight ends besides.
I know there's a massive gap this week. There's not even really a mid tier. We had to make up a mid tier because tight end is so bad this week.
Agreed. Go ahead and talk about your mid tier guy, Tim.
I will go back. Let's see here. We all have basically the same couple guys. So I'm going to go with Greg Dulcich, right? I just talked about Russ. I'm going to go back to that's a passing game I'm going to attack, right? You hit Tennessee through the passing game, and, he's had pretty consistent target volume. I thought it was pretty surprising. He had 5 targets, 9 targets, right? I think that, and Russ uses him around the red zone. I think that he kind of has everything that you're looking for a tight end in that range at 3,400. Expect he's going to be pretty popular. I think he rates pretty well on most sites, but for cash, that's where I'm looking to pay either that guy or the guy I think Gerson's probably going to talk about.
Yeah, I think on RotoGrinders, I think he's the second highest owned tight end behind the guy that Gerson may talk about. Gerson, go ahead and give us your mid tier.
Yeah, Greg Dulcich is 13% owned, and then Travis Kelce is 12%. I do want to touch on something. I think this week is a double tight end week because Kelce is such in a smash spot that you can use him as a flex.
You stole my thunder, Gerson. But that's all right. You didn't know.
What am I supposed to like?
I'm just messing with you, man. I was going to say I was going to make the same point. I was going to make the same point, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Next week I'll rehearse the show with you. How about that? No, no. That's what I know. The news was told that what's his name, Darren Waller, his vagina still hasn't healed, so he's out. They are. Yeah.
And he's balling on the IR now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Baller on the IR.
And shockingly, I didn't even notice. I guess I'm so pissed off with the Raiders that I don't even care. Hunter Renfro's on IR too. I mean, who are they going to throw the ball to? I mean, I know Foster Moreau hasn't really done very well lately, but I'm just looking for cheap tight end. 3.2K against the Indianapolis Colts. He's coming in at 10% ownership, and the projected for almost 23 points. So give me the Raiders. Guys, they have to do something this week. If they don't, I'm probably not going to show up next week because I'll be heartbroken, man. The season's over, basically.
All right. I do have another mid-tier tight end there that's a little bit off the beaten path, and it's Tyler Higbee. Obviously, pending the Stafford news. If Stafford plays, I like Higbee this week because Arizona is the worst team against tight ends as far as giving up points to the tight end position. Higbee hasn't been good lately. His price has come down a little bit, so Higbee would sort of be a pivot off some of those other guys at 3.6 versus Arizona. Tim, all right, that's it, right? No, Gerson's got one more guy. Talk about Moose.
Moose.
Pat Fryermuth, man. The Moose is loose, man. I've been playing this guy all season, and he's been paying off for me. He is a little bit more expensive, 4.2K, but they're playing the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints, basically, to me, are either average or they just suck really bad. I'm hoping the crappy. I hate when I feel like they have either a good game or they really suck. I'm hoping they really suck. They're coming off a bye week. I think what's his name? Mike Tomlin has to get this team going. Mike Tomlin never finished the season below 500.
Yep.
And Kenny Pickett, get more comfortable with him. He's getting target. We look for three things for tight end doggies. I mean, two main things: target and touchdown. And that's what he gets. He gets either, well, he only has one touchdown in the season, but he gets targeted a lot. 7 target, 9 target, 9 target, 10, 7. He's had all of that all season. So I think with him and then one of the wide receivers on the other side is going to be excited to play. But give me Pat Fryermuth. He is a little bit more expensive, so you are going to have to pay up a little more.
Good stuff. All right, we'll move down into the value tier. Tim, I'll go to you for the value you got there.
Yeah, Gerson asked earlier, how do you fit Tua with a double stack? Well, one of the ways is you bring it back with Harrison Bryant. David Njoku has been ruled out. I think this sets up as a really good spot for him. We've seen him, in spots in the past where he's gotten the work, have really good weeks. And Miami is basically bottom 5 against tight ends. They give up a ton of yards over the middle. So I think that this could be a spot where Jacoby Brissett just checks it down to him over and over and over again, and those PPR points rack up. So he scores a touchdown. Obviously, he's a smash. And really, you're just looking for value any way you can this week to try and fit in some of the higher price guys.
Good stuff. Gerson has the same tight end that Tim does. The one guy that I have, I'm a little bit iffy on now because it's the Colts tight end, Kylan Granson. When I first looked at the slate, Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods were both not practicing. Mo Alley Cox did get a limited practice in today. I don't know if he'll play or not. If he doesn't play, I like Granson at 2.6. He's not the best tight end in the world, but he's athletic enough. And if he can get the full complement of snaps, I think he was getting like 40% of snaps with Alley Cox getting 55. And then they mixed in Johnny Woods in the red zone. So if he's getting all of those snaps at 2.6 against the Raiders, I kind of like my odds there that he can catch a touchdown this week. All right, that's it for the tight ends. Today's show was brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Single game, single week best ball leagues are here. If you love fantasy football, nothing better than weekly best ball league like Underdog offers. No need to wait until the end of the season and see if you won. You have a chance to win every week. Get the app for iOS or Android. Use our promo code GF2 and get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Underdog Fantasy is the fastest growing fantasy sport platform on the market, and there's a reason for that. See what all the hype is about. Get the app, use promo code GF2, and start winning. And if you haven't ever checked out the B League show, he comes on Fridays before us. He does a pick'ems for Underdog. They also have a pick'em section where you can pick over-unders on players. And he does a really great job sort of picking out the good ones each week. So he comes on at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I advise getting the app, use the promo code, get your money, and then go watch B League on Friday nights and get your stuff ready. All right, let's get to the money stuff.
It's time for running backs. Running backs.
All right, I'll kick off the running backs here with the guy that I think is going to be fairly low owned because of the guys that are kind of around him. I think will be more popular, and that's Mr. Nick Chubb. At Miami, 8.1. Nick Chubb is that guy that always gets overlooked. He doesn't catch passes, but he's been phenomenal this year with his efficiency, getting those touchdowns. And I think the Browns' game plan will be to lean on Nick Chubb to keep that potent Dolphins team off the field. So at 8.1, I do like Chubb. He's definitely a tournament play. Like I said, the guys are sort of. Why are you laughing, Gerson?
You do like Chubb?
Yes. Leave it to Gerson. Nick Chubb, I think at 8.1 is definitely viable.
Lock It in.
All right, Gerson, your lock of the week is here. Go ahead and talk about your guy. I think Gerson got locked. Gerson, talk about your lock of the week.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley, man. I said it like 2 weeks ago, basically. That Saquon Barkley just basically the whole offense of the Giants, basically that offense horrendous in any way. Saquon Barkley. I mean, there's a reason why Daniel Jones season high 217 yards passing. I mean, he has no wide receivers, no tight end, really. But to me, I like this game that sets up for him because one, they're favored, and they're favored right now by they're a 5-point favorite, and Barkley only been favored 11 times in his career, but he averages 26.5 DraftKings points and 23, well, FanDuel points, but we're more a DraftKings show in 11 of those games. He exceeded 32 points in 36% of those games. So the matchup is there. It's the best matchup of the that you can have against the Houston Texans, as they allow 6+ fantasy schedule adjusted fantasy points, and they allow 840 yards after contact. That's 5.5 yards per. I mean, he averaged 5.5 yards per carry. Dude, he has everything. And one of the crazier stats that I've been researching this year, because it helped me get those running backs that actually have like a boom game, is he has a 7.2% explosive play rate, third most. So give me Barkley on this slate. He is expensive, but you can make it work. You just you're gonna have to pay down and you're not gonna make it work with a Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. But the other quarterbacks like Field and that's a negative correlation. But with Tua mainly, I guess you can say, but then you're gonna be paying for Tyreek. But you can make it work. I'm gonna have he's gonna be my only expensive running back. I do love Henry, but it's kind of hard, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, one thing about Saquon, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this week, is they're coming off the bye. Like, he hasn't played in 2 weeks and then gets a home game against the Texans.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot envision. If he could have made the schedule, he couldn't have made a better spot. So I don't see how you don't play Saquon this week, especially in cash.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, I think Gerson may have said it, but they are dead last DVOA versus the run as well. So, Barkley is definitely a good lock of the week. Gerson, you did mention Henry. Did you want to talk about him real quick before you move down to the mid tier?
Yeah, Derrick Henry, we saw last week that they can basically just win a game just with Derrick Henry.
Yeah. D. Hember has come early for sure.
Malik Willis didn't do shit. Yeah, so Derrick Henry is the entire offense. He's earning 58% of the team's total offensive yards over the last 3 games. This is not going to change. Kind of actually favored right now by 3 against the Denver Broncos. And I've been bringing this up more, but when Henry is favored, he averages 25.2 fantasy points per game. That's pretty damn good. That's elite, That's what you want. Yep. And I think they're going to want to keep the Broncos defense. You beat them through the run, not through the pass. So right now, with the loss of Bradley Chubb, I think their defense is even going to get weaker. But they have an elite secondary, though, with I think it's Justin Simmons and then Patrick Surtain. That defensive, the defensive back they have pretty good. But I can see Henry, having a big game. But I've already had him win this year as lock of the week, so I couldn't go back to him.
Right.
Good stuff. Gerson's having a little bit of internet connections, but I'm sure you got the gist of it. He was breaking up a little bit there, but I think y'all understood what he was trying to say. Henry's a good play, but a pivot off Barkley at 8.3.
Yep.
All right, Tim, let's get down to the mid tier. What you got in the mid tier?
Yeah, I'm gonna go talk about a Raider here, Gerson. I'm gonna talk about Mr. Josh Jacobs. This is probably one of my favorite plays on the slate this week. And it has very little to do with the Raiders and everything to do with the fact that the Colts are falling apart. I think this sets up as such a good spot because I don't envision a game script that Josh Jacobs is not a part of in this game, right? They get a home game against the Colts. They're favored. The line has moved 2.5 points in their favor. I think they run Josh Jacobs 30 times in this game, man. I just think it absolutely sets up as a smash spot for him. And, he's coming off a couple bad weeks. So I think some people are like, oh, he's lost it, whatever. I don't want to use it because everybody's going to say this is Joe Mixon week moving forward. But I could see a similar spot here where they're at home coming off a bad loss against a bad team, and they just run the ball 30 times.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think he'll be a pretty popular play as well. Gerson, what you got in your mid-tier?
So I'm going to talk about a guy that's just been on fire. Great on fire. And that's Travis Etienne, man. This guy finally, they traded James Robinson out. He's being that workhorse that everybody saw in college football when he played for Clemson, I think it was. But now he's doing it in the NFL. Travis Etienne, he has 76%. He's capped 76% of. What's my stat? I guess I forgot to freaking write it down. My bad, guys. But anyway, he's getting the whole backfield workload right now. He's averaging 23.3 carries per game, second most, 4 targets per game, 16th most, and he's averaging 23.5 expected fantasy points per game, second most. I don't know what else to say. He's getting 80% of the snap shares too, so he's dominating the whole backfield. It's his show, He did go up in price, $7,100, not exactly cheap, but he is coming out very highly owned right now. He is the second highest owned running back at 22%. So wow. He's going to be highly owned. I love that call that Tim made, though, Jacob. I can see him, what he said, have a Joe Mixon day.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going with Dameon Pierce. I know we talked about Saquon Barkley, but on the other side of that game, Dameon Pierce has been quite frankly a beast at 7.1. I think he's still way too cheap. While y'all were talking, I was looking up the stat. So there's a stat that they keep on FTN Fantasy that I use a lot. It's called missed tackles forced, which is basically either juking somebody out or just breaking the tackle in general. The top 3 in the league, the only 3 guys to have over 50 missed tackle force. Josh Jacobs is 1, Nick Chubb is 2, Dameon Pierce is number 3. So I think Dameon Pierce is a great play. I think the Giants defense is 22nd DVOA versus the run. So if you're not playing Barkley, you want to get a little bit cheaper but stay in that same game, go with Pierce on the other side at 7.1. All right, we got tons of mid-tier guys, so we'll go back through one more time. Gerson, we'll go to you. You got one more guy on your list there in the mid-tier.
So I want to answer Joe's question. He said, what about Pollard? Zeke is probably going to play. He's likely to play. There's a lot of people that I think are full of shit. But Jerry Jones is definitely one of them. But if Jerry Jones is saying that Zeke is likely to play, that basically means that's Jerry Jones' lover boy, dude. Like, he loves Zeke more than anybody, dude. And so I don't think Pollard will be a good play if Zeke plays. It's kind of crazy that everybody –
I do have Pollard on my list with the caveat that Zeke is ruled out. If Zeke is ruled out, I think it's 6.5 versus the Packers, who we know are kind of a funnel defense. Their secondary is really good. Their run defense is not very good, so Pollard would be a great play, but only if Zeke is out, because if Zeke's in, I have no idea what the split's going to look like. So that's definitely where I'm at as well on that one. Talk about Alvin Kamara, Gerson.
Yeah, so Alvin Kamara, I think he's gonna go more under-owned than I expected, dude. He's the 4th highest owned running back. I thought he was going to be the highest. He had a really bad game last week. Bad. It was one of his worst games against the Baltimore Ravens. He had 9 for 30, and he only had 3 yards per carry and then 3 receptions. That's not Kamara at all. But we forgot what he did against the Raiders, I guess, right? I don't, because he scored 42 points on them. And while they're getting back TJ Watt, I don't expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to come out and be this juggernaut again. They were terrible before and they're going to be terrible after, even with TJ Watt. TJ Watt is he puts pressure. He has nothing to do. It's very easy. Kamara's going to get a lot of pass catch and run workload. And at 7,400, I think this is the tier I'm going to die in. If I'm not playing Barkley or Henry, I'm playing 3 of these running backs: Kamara, Etienne, Dameon Pierce, or Josh Jacob. Likely Jacob going to be one of the 3, though, for sure.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm with you there as well. I only have one more guy in there, and it's just because his price is just so tempting. He did practice in full on Friday, so he is supposedly fully healthy. Jonathan Taylor at 7.5. I find it hard to believe that the guy we saw last year is just not going to show up this year for the rest of the season. I think he's eventually going to show up. We saw it in his rookie season, where second half of the year he came on strong. Maybe this is the game he breaks out. New coach, they kind of motivated. Jeff Saturday's there. They want to show out. Maybe Jonathan Taylor comes in and maybe they actually run him enough. Jeff Saturday was a former offensive lineman. Maybe he just wants to run the ball and pound Jonathan Taylor there. So at 7.5, I think he's just way too cheap. And I have him in my mid tier as well.
What is it that he says, Jeff Saturday? We're going to find out.
Yeah. Yep. We will definitely find out. That's for sure. All right, let's move down. There's not a ton this week, Tim, but you got a few guys listed there. Go ahead and talk about one of them.
Yeah, I want to talk about Jeff Wilson Jr. I know this is probably one of the biggest stories of the week, in my opinion, is that he came in and just took that job. You know what I mean? And I think that it's only going to grow as it moves forward. I think that they want him to be the primary back. I really do. And every week I do a thread in the DFS roundtable group, and one of the things I always post is the flow chart, right, that I get from Ryan on Twitter. And the flow chart teams for running backs, we've talked about them, right? The Los Angeles Chargers, they're not on the slate. Houston Texans, we talked about Saquon Barkley. Cleveland Browns, right? They've given up a top 12 running back in every game this year. So is it going to be Mostert? Is it going to be Jeff Wilson Jr.? Give me the guy that's cheaper, played more snaps in his first week, and got more receptions, which is the most valuable on PPR. So I know a lot of people are going to go to Jeff Wilson. I think everybody in the mid-range I like better than Jeff Wilson. But if you want to get a little different or save some money, it's Jeff Wilson time.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely the better pass catcher too. As a Niners fan, I saw both these guys quite a bit. Mostert, I think, even had a drop last week that he was wide open for out of the flat. So Jeff Wilson came in there, half of a week of prep and ended up being, basically the lead running back there. So I think it just continues to grow. And I think you're right. I think eventually he'll have the larger share of the snaps there. Gerson, let's go to you. What you got in your value tier?
So just like we said, it's really ugly though at value. But one guy that I really do like is Devin Singletary. Is it Devin or David?
Devin.
Okay, I can't remember his name. Devin Singletary. He's gonna be what? He's gonna be featured more than anybody. Because if Keenum plays, well, if Allen or Keenum start, then likely they're gonna try to just play conservative. They're not gonna play aggressive. At least I would hope so, because if they play aggressive, Keenum's gonna be in for a rude awakening, man. But Singletary has been quietly a really good running back this year. I mean, I know this because I own him in some season long. But 5,600 for the Minnesota Vikings, he had a couple of games of double-digit points. And if he gets the workload, he usually performs pretty well. But when he gets only like 8 or 6, of course, he's not going to do great. But when I don't see Josh Allen, I don't see Case Keenum running the ball 10 times, So, yeah, so I definitely, I went like, 40 minutes without saying an F word. Dang, yep. Man. Anyway, 5,600. But if Allen plays, I'm off. I don't think he's going to play. He hurt his wiener, so I don't think he's going to play. But definitely give me Singletary at 5.6K. They're still favored, right?
Talk about narrative street, though. Case Keenum and Stephon Diggs are the Minnesota Miracle, and they're going back to Minnesota. Well, I guess they're playing at home, but they're playing Minnesota.
All right.
A revenge game between the two guys that contended for that.
I don't. But that's the thing. I don't think there's any bad blood.
No, I'm just. It's funny that it just happens to be the week that Josh Allen gets hurt. It's Case Keenum against the Vikings. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I shout out to what's his name, Jared. He's a big Minnesota Viking fan. I sent him is there gonna be a Minnesota Miracle again this week or what?
Yeah. All right, in the value tier here, it's kind of hard, to see this guy. We had high hopes for this guy coming into the season, but Najee Harris, similar to Jonathan Taylor, at 5.5, I think he has to start showing something eventually. Maybe they figure something out over their bye week. He's just too cheap. He's still getting volume. We just need to see something from him at 5.5. He's a worthy bullet, what they call it, a shot in the dark for Najee Harris at 5.5. Tim, you got one more guy in your value tier.
Yeah, this is a shout out to Jared. He said it was Kareem Hunt week, and I kind of looked into it. And I think, with them being down in Njoku, I think that they're going to target him more across the middle. And I think the game script works out where Miami's probably going to get up on Cleveland. And Nick Chubb, if it goes that way, I think Nick Chubb kind of gets game scripted out and they use a lot more Kareem Hunt. So, this is definitely a GPP play. I would not use him in cash. But I think the possibility of him getting, 7 or 8 targets is realistic. And, almost no other running back has that kind of target possibility in this range. So obviously this, like I said, a game script kind of has to go a certain way. They haven't been using him as much this year as we would have liked. But we saw a little bit more over the last couple of weeks. So maybe that trends well against Miami.
Good stuff. Gerson had to go to the little boys' room, but he has Jamal Williams listed there at 5.9. I think he's also a pretty good play there for Detroit. Swift has been getting not very much usage lately. I don't know if it's his health or what it is, but he hasn't been playing much, and Jamal Williams is that dude. So
I don't know, but as a Swift owner, it's very frustrating because I never know if I should play him or not.
Yeah, I would be the same way. Yep. All right, let's get to the receivers.
And now, wide receivers.
All right, Tim, we'll go to you here. And, the guy we talked about pre-show here and how he popped up. Go ahead and talk about your boy.
He was my lock of the week last week. He was your lock of the week before. And he's 9,100 now, and we're still telling you play Tyreek Hill. I saw a stat earlier posted by TJ Hernandez of 4 for 4. So his yards per route run is 4.2. The next highest person, I think, is 3.5, and it's Devontae Adams. Like, he is just so much better than every other receiver this year. It's insane. He rated out as my number 2 value receiver at 9,100, which is also kind of crazy. Like, he's a value even at that price. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, we love Tua this week. I think you can stack them. You can attack Cleveland through the air or through the ground. They're just not a really good defense. And again, Tyreek has gotten that consistent target volume, right? He's no longer just the deep threat that he used to be. They're using him on all kinds of short routes, slant routes, get the ball in space. And, he's just going to go crazy. So, was 143 yards last week, 188 yards the week before. 2 weeks before was 177. I mean, any week Tyreek can break this slate. So he's 9,100. He's expensive, but I think you can pay up for him.
We can just start calling him Ty Week because it's Tyreek's week.
Play him every week, man.
I like
it.
Is
he 10K yet? I might still consider him at 10K.
Yeah. So I have the other receiver that you just mentioned, Waddle in that same game. If you're trying to, go cheap, you still want not cheap. He's 7.6, but he's definitely cheaper than Tyreek Hill and still get exposure to that game. He's still getting targets. If you look at him and Tua and Waddle, they've always had that connection. At 7.6, you save quite a bit from Tyreek, and you can still get that same similar upside with the touchdowns. Gerson, who do you got in your elite tier of receivers here? We talked about Tyreek and Waddle already. So the only one you got left there, Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp. I mean, the only thing that's not broken on the Rams offense is Cooper Kupp. He's 9,000. He is expensive, but he's playing the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals have looked pretty good. Like, they're scoring, but at the same time, that defensive theirs is just horrendous. They've already had this game in week 3. He didn't have a good game, but I think what I'm trying to do is just get different. Everybody's going to be on Tyreek. I expect Kupp to be like at 10% owned, He is the same price, basically, so you are going to have to, leverage. That's leverage for me. I don't know what the update on Matthew Stafford is. He did practice, they said, but it was concussion, right? So,
concussion protocol. He's got to pass all his tests.
You got to pass all the tests. If he doesn't pass all his tests, of course, I'm not going to be playing Kupp. He will be off my list of players. I won't have any exposure to. John Wolford is not going to make Cooper Kupp look like Cooper Kupp. If Cooper Kupp somehow looks like Cooper Kupp with John Wolford, he is the greatest wide receiver in the history of the NFL.
Cooper
Yeah.
Cup with Walford is Cooper Sippy Cup because it's definitely playing.
No, but I think it's important to note it, to mention, like you said, that it's not an injury, right? It's a concussion. So if he passes the protocol, you expect him to be pretty close to 100%.
Yep, agreed. So you have one more guy there, Tim. I have him too, but go ahead and talk about that one guy you got left in your delete.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the guy on the other side of that game, DeAndre Hopkins. Again, this is kind of, what we don't really know what the situation is with Kyler, right? But, same kind of situation. I don't think it matters. Like, if there's any guy throughout his career that proves that quarterback does not matter, it's DeAndre Hopkins, right? Like, This dude just goes out there and performs. So, Kyler got a couple limited practices in. It's a hamstring injury. I think he's going to play. He probably just won't be as mobile as possible. But that means he just gets to look up and find DeAndre Hopkins more. So, we've seen the target volume. Last week was a little bit less, but I think they go right back to him. Rams consistently giving up a ton of points to wide receivers. They don't give up a ton of touchdowns, but they'll give up a ton of PPR points. So I think he can pay off that 8K salary.
Yeah, I like it. I did have Diggs in my elite tier, but we don't think Josh Allen's going to play, so I will take Diggs off of that. But if for some reason Josh Allen does play 8.3, I like Diggs as well. All right, let's move down into the
I like him
mid-tier.
even so. I want to see the Case Keenum just make Stephon Diggs go crazy anyway.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome, dude.
That would be great. Gerson, let's go to the mid-tier. What you got in your mid-tier you want to talk about?
Yeah, man. Hold on, let me get to it. Obviously, I'm going to be playing on Patrick Mahomes. One guy that I've been very, I wish I could play him on regular slate. Now I finally get a chance, but the Chiefs haven't really been on the main slate for 2 or 3 weeks now, I think.
Yeah.
And Juju Smith-Schuster is no longer Juju Poo-Poo-Schuster or whatever, or Poo-Poo-Juju, whatever. He's done really well in the last 3 weeks, 25 points, 28 points, and 18 points. And he's getting targeted. Last week, he got 12 targets, dude. That's a lot for a guy that's just 6K. We're talking Amon-Ra St. Brown usage right now. If he's finally coming around, he's finally looking good. Patrick Mahomes, it could be a good stack, He's 13% owned too, so he's the 5th highest owned wide receiver right now. And I can see everybody playing him. I can see him going higher and higher as the week goes on. Because one thing we know right now, value's not cute right now. There's not a free square. So you really have to play these conviction plays, whatever.
Yep, conviction.
And I think Juju is a great play against the Jacksonville Jaguars, ranked 27th DVP against wide receiver 1. Great matchup. And, of course, the projected highest implied total at 30 points. Yeah. So give me Juju for sure. I have a lot of fun with him.
Love it. Tim, what you got in your mid-tier?
Let's see. I would take the guy on the other side of that game, Christian Kirk, right? We saw him do really well last week against Gerson's Raiders, but I think his target volume's been really consistent, right? And that's always what I'm looking for, particularly in cash, right? He had 9 targets last week, but 7. We talked about Denver's a really good pass defense. He still had 7 targets. Giants are pretty good. He had 10 targets. And now against Kansas City, and we talked about this earlier, teams throw more against Kansas City than any other team in the league. So I expect Kansas City to be up in this game. I think this is a script we talked about earlier where Trevor Lawrence is going to throw the ball 35+ times. I think he could see close to a 25-30% target share, which is 8 to 10 targets. So Christian Kirk on the other side of that game, again, going to be popular, but I think he's a good play this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like it. My guy in the mid-tier is going to be Mr. Rondale Moore. I know we talked about DeAndre Hopkins a little bit, but Rondale Moore in the slot. He's had, in the last 2 games, he had 10 targets last game. He had, Gerson's raising his hand. What you got, Gerson?
Yeah, I've been raising it for 10 minutes. You just been looking down it. So I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to ask because I feel like the last, 3 weeks, we've gotten there's 3 games to target, right? There's games you want to. I feel like just Kansas City, Jacksonville Jaguars, and then the Miami-Cleveland game are 2 games you for sure want to target. And those are 2 games I'm really interested in. And then, of course, the Detroit-Chicago game. But I don't know if I'm that interested in a Detroit-Chicago game, to be honest. Because rivalry game, Tim knows this the best. They really do really well against each other. But do you feel the same way? These 3 games are very viable for all your DraftKings rosters?
Yeah, and I do. And I actually had a kind of it's not really a stat, but an interesting observation, if you will. So basically, we're getting into November, right? It's starting to get cold out. Almost every game in the slate is in the 30s, except for the Miami game is expected to be 82. So it just
Wow.
doesn't even matter. The rest of the country might be going through a cold freeze, but Miami's still Miami.
Yep, Miami's still Miami. All right, back to my Rondell Moore speech. He's had at least 8 targets over 3 of the last 4 games. He had 10 targets last week. He's not putting up like the touchdowns that you want to see there, but I do think on DraftKings with the points in the PPR, you're getting those 10, 11, 12 targets. I'll take that any day of the week for a guy like Rondell Moore, who's pretty cheap. He's only 5.9. Let's see. We're going to move into the value tier. Let me just mention the guys that we had on our list that we haven't discussed yet. I had Chris Olave, sort of a tournament play at 6.8, a little bit more expensive than I wanted to be, but I think he's still viable. Tim had Darnell Mooney in that same Chicago-Detroit game. Obviously, you can stack him in fields if you want to, 5.5. And Gerson's got Amon-Ra St. Brown at 6.9 in that
The
same
Sun
game as well.
God.
Sun God. All right, let's move down into the value, Tim. What you got for your value?
Yeah, so we talked about it earlier, right? I mean, the value this week is so bad. Like, I honestly felt like all of these guys could have been sit calls on most other weeks, right? So it's just which is the worst, the best of the worst. So we basically all have the same guys too. So I'm going to go with Donovan Peoples-Jones. We talked about that Cleveland-Miami game. You want exposure to it. You want cheap exposure to it, particularly if you're going to do Tua stacks. I talked about Harrison Bryant earlier. If you don't play Harrison Bryant, another cheap option is DPJ. He has gotten, again, consistent volume. He's had, more than 70 yards in multiple games. And of course, this is a little bit of narrative as well, but Amari Cooper does not play well at home, right? His home road splits are not just this year. They've been throughout his career. He's not played well on the road. So if they've got to throw the ball, I think we're going to see more DPJ action this week. And his splits kind of mirror Amari's, right? He's played better on the road as a result. So at 4,300, I think that he could see 6 targets, which is all you're really looking in that range.
All right, good stuff. So we had a drop that we kind of made a few weeks back for Dak when he came back, but I think it applies to this guy too. Mac Hollins, Gerson. Talk about Mac Hollins.
I didn't even get the reference there for a second. So I'm like, wait, Mac Hollins. Yeah, man, Mac Hollins. I mean, I think the last time we actually had Mac Hollins as a value play, he smashed. Like, I remember, dude, like, and that was like, what's crazy about Mac Hollins is that this guy has been in the NFL for 6 years. He's just kind of sucks. He's just he's a practice squad player, gets called up, gets to play. Someone has to get hurt. It's like it all has to fall for him. But when it falls, it falls. I think he got what? Hold on, I'm trying to pull it up. Like 30. He got like 35 points or 31 points.
Yeah,
right?
it was like 169 yards. I think he had like 8
Yeah,
catches.
it was 8 for 158 and a touchdown, 32.96.
Yeah,
he had 10 targets, 8 receptions, 158 and a touchdown, like you guys said. But the thing is, like, dude, there's no rental, no Waller, and he's like 6'2", right? Like he's pretty tall. He's not small.
Yep.
And I think Clark's gonna have to throw the ball. He's thrown the ball to Holland. I watched the Raiders game. He throws deep bombs to Holland. So if Clark's gonna stop being a pussy and throw the ball down the field, then Mac Hollins for 4,200. If he gets one catch for 60 yards and a touchdown, he's crushing value. And like we said, value is really, really ugly this week. I mean, but I do want to say that this is a leverage play off the DPJ because DPJ is going to be highly owned. You can go to Mac Hollins. I mean, I do expect Mac Hollins ownership to go up a little bit, but I don't expect it to touch DPJ ownership.
agreed.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of a different, he's a little bit lower owned value guy. George Pickens, we kind of forgot about him. He had a bad week going into the bye week. He only had 3 targets, no catches. Before that, he had 6 targets, 8 targets, 8 targets, 7 targets. I think he gets back on that path. He's 5K. The Saints are, I think, 21st DVOA versus the pass. Pickett loves to throw it his way. He seems to look his way quite often. I just think he had that one bad game. So I do think coming out of the bye week, Pickens at 5K is a pretty good value as well. And Tim, you got one more guy that's pretty interesting as well. I want to talk about MVS a little bit.
Yeah, we saw Mecole Hardman was ruled out today. Obviously, they used him on jet sweeps and stuff like that, but they also used him as kind of the deep threat, right? Juju's more the slot guy, runs those short routes, but MVS is going to be running your deep routes, right? So if you're doing Patrick Mahomes stack and you want to do a little cheaper option, or I also think he makes a really kind of good one-off if you just want some exposure to that game. At 4,100, definitely a GPP play. He pretty much is the definition of boom or bust. He could get you 2 or he could get you 20, but that's what you want in a tournament, right? You want that guy that has that upside possibility. So I think the usage is there. We talked about the game environment, the best of the slate. So I think you got to have some MVS exposure.
Let's get to the
defense.
All right, Tim, we always leave with you. What you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and assume Josh Allen is going to be out, and it's going to be the Case Keenum show. And even though he may play well, I'm going to go ahead and go with the chalk again here and go with the Vikings defense. The biggest reason is that we talked about multiple times on this show, value is so hard to come by. And so I'm going to just punt all the way down, right? They're the only team in that range that I feel comfortable starting that I know is going to get me positive points. So pay down at defense, particularly in cash, and pay up for everything else.
Yeah, good call. You know, something that was ironic, I meant to mention this when we did the rewind, Tim, is last week you said, you know, obviously Panthers were the chalk and we were all playing the chalk. And you said, I don't want to play the Jets because they might give me negative points. But then the Panthers got us negative points and the Jets balled out. So,
and I did play the Jets. Like if you actually saw by Sunday morning. So, Sunday morning, we always talk about you got to watch the Sunday show because so much happens Sunday morning. And we basically ended up getting confirmation, right? I pivoted off to get to Justin Fields, right? I came down off Aaron Rodgers, and then that required me to save some money. I was like, how am I going to save some money? I went down to the Jets defense. So it was purely luck. I probably had the Panthers all week, but yeah, ended up on the Jets, worked out.
Good stuff. Gerson, you got any defenses you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titan. I definitely loved him against Russell Wilson. I don't say Russell Wilson is even good still. He might have had he had one good game. I think it was his last game. But still, I think that offense struggles. Brable was really smart at game planning your weaknesses. I think Brable is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and I think he's going to do the same thing exactly to Denver Broncos. And with Henry there, they're just going to run the ball, try to force turnovers from Wilson. But it's 3.3K. You are going to pay up a little bit, but I'd rather go to a route that Tim said, basically 2.2K for the Vikings or next defense that Tim's probably going to talk.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about that one last defense you got there, Tim.
Well, no, I have the Cardinals, which I think are a good team, but whether Matthew Stafford plays or not because they get good pressure. But I actually want to talk about the Cowboys, and this hurts me to say because they're playing my Green Bay Packers this week. Nobody is going to pay up for defense this week. I promise you. Okay, this is a chance. The Packers are really hurting right now. Romeo Doubs is out, and he has nobody to throw to. Sammy Watkins looks lost. Alan Lazard's got a bad shoulder he's trying to play through. They have no idea how to run the ball right now. I hate to say it, but this game could get ugly. So we talked about it earlier. I think Zeke's going to – yeah, I am hurting. I'm hurting when I'm recommending this play, but all year long, when I've had these kind of plays, they've worked out. So, again, nobody's going to play up for Dowens. They're number one scoring defense, I think, on DraftKings. They have 20-point potential. GPP only, but I think you can pay for them.
I think this is Tim's sneaky way to reverse jinx. Like he had all Packers last week and they jinxed them. So this week he's like, yeah, I'm talking about the Cowboys defense. Maybe they'll all jinx them and they'll end up being terrible. But
I will take it. That actually sounds amazing, but that's not why I said this at all.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our stacks.
Goingfor2.com's weekly stack report.
All right, Gerson, we'll go to you first here on your stack.
Honestly, I would have had one of the stack that these two guys had, but they beat me to the show sheet this week. So
Every week.
I'm going to go more of a contrarian route. Usually people, when they think stack, they only think, wide receiver, quarterback, tight end. I don't. I actually think a little bit deeper. Not trying to call you guys stupid or anything. I love all you guys, but Derrick Henry and the Titans defense correlation. If the Titans go up ahead, and they're going to do it through Derrick Henry, and that Titans defense can force turnovers, and they put the gas, like the pedal to the, what do you call it, pedal to the metal or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I can see this correlation doing good, but it's just more just to be different. But I love the two stacks that you guys have, though.
Good stuff. All right, Tim, go ahead and talk about your stack. You had mentioned a little bit already, but go ahead and
I did. I gave it away earlier. Yeah, I think this week it's going to be really hard to pay for Tua and Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and so not as many people would do it as they would on most other weeks. But you have two cheap run backs to come back with, either DPJ or Harrison Bryant. I think there are some other value plays we've talked about. So it's tough, but I think it is doable, particularly if you punt defense as well.
Yep, I like it. I also went with an expensive stack. I got Mahomes, Juju, Kelsey, and bring it back with ETN, who I think is a script or a game script proof running back because he'll be there whether they're down or not. And then I was gonna, I really kind of stole my thunder earlier. I was like, oh, how do you fit this in there? Well, you put Kelsey at the flex, and then you punt tight end, and that's really how you're going to do it. And I kind of showcased how you do that with the receivers that I mentioned, that he kind of is a receiver in that sense as far as points per game. So you put Mahomes, obviously Juju, get Kelsey in your flex, you punt tight end with maybe Harrison Bryant, and then bring ETN on the other side. So I like that stack a lot this week. I think it'll be pretty popular as well if you can fit it in. All right, let's get to the sick calls.
And now, the sick call of the week.
So pre-show, before Tim got here, we were looking at our sick calls, and Gerson kind of, just to call it how it is, Gerson hates the sick call segment because he doesn't like giving quote unquote bad plays. But 5 out of his 9, he's doing better than both me and Tim. 5 of his plays have hit. So he's actually above 500 for his sick calls. So Gerson, because of that, you get to give your sick call first.
Hey, look, man, I'm here for the people. If they want a sick call, they get a sick call, okay? I'm actually a little bit sick right now. I'm real over from yesterday, so maybe this will work. Philip Dorsett. You guys remember that name? Yeah, I didn't. But I went and looked at him, and I'm like, because he was on my showdown roster, and I was like, holy crap, this guy? No way, dude. So he's 3,400, I believe, right? Am I wrong?
I think he's 3,600.
He's 3,600, yeah. He's only 1.5% owned, and while he's facing the Giants, Davis Mills had targeted him 5 times last week. He got 69 yards. I mean, if you get that, that's 3 times value right there. And he's getting work more and more. And I don't know if you guys saw what Brandon Cooks did on the interview, but he made it seem like, yeah, these guys know what I'm doing. I mean, they know I love them. They know I'll go to war with them. But yeah, you're not out there. Okay, bro.
Yeah. I'll go to war with y'all, but I'm going to sit home. Is that okay?
He's that guy that just sits at the base in a tent. Have fun. Y'all go have fun.
Yeah.
Right. Give me Phil Dorsett at 3.6K. It's just disgusting. It's a sick call, man. This doesn't hit.
Yeah. Sick calls this week were like really hard.
Yeah, I said it before. This is the sickest sick calls, like going all the way back. I can't remember a week. Like DPJ, Mac Hollins, MVS, like those are sick calls most weeks. This week, I'm going to talk about a guy named Samori Toure. And I guarantee even like dynasty players don't know who this guy is, man.
I had to look him up. I was like, who the hell is this guy?
This is as deep as it gets. I'm only going to talk about one Packer on this whole broadcast, and it's this guy. And let me preface this by saying I have missed the last 6 weeks in a row. I hit the first 3, and then I'm 0 for the last 6. So do not play this guy. That's my caveat, okay? But as soon as Romeo Doubs went down, this guy basically played every snap. Rodgers has more trust in him than basically anybody else on the field not named Alan Lazard. As I said earlier, Sammy Watkins is a non-factor, I think the Cowboys are going to be up early in this game. Rodgers is going to have to throw, and Trayvon Diggs is not going to be covering this guy. He's going to get Anthony Brown or whatever third backup cornerback they have. So at 3,900, as we talked about, one long touchdown, which he had 2 weeks ago, he pays off value. So this guy is a sub 1% play, the sickest of sick calls, but my guy.
Yeah, I like it. I actually changed my sit call before the show. I just want to mention who my original sit call was and tell you why I changed it. But I had James Cook for the Buffalo Bills. Just talking narrative, he's playing against his brother, Dalvin Cook, on the other side. Cook has had some extra opportunities recently. I think he had 6 opportunities last week, which I think is a season high. I thought maybe he can do something this week. Unfortunately, when I looked at his price, he's 4,800. So that was just a little bit too expensive for me to pay for a sit call. So I had to go dive deep a little bit. And I'm going with Steven Sims Jr., formerly of the Washington Commanders at 3.2. The Pittsburgh Steelers was traded away. Chase Claypool. Steven Sims is the one to take his spot in the offense. He did play a little bit last week. He caught 2 passes for -1 yards. That's not really what you want to see, but offense on the field a lot. You know, he could potentially do something big. I know he had a couple big plays when he was here as a Commander. What's wrong, Gerson?
Dude, is this true? Wow, can I change my sick call?
All right, go ahead.
I didn't see this. I am going off field to that, and I'm going to Trayvon Burks. He's 3,000.
He's 3,000. He's back this week.
He's back from IR, and he's 3,000.
That's true.
Wow.
All right, so Gerson's got a new sit call. Traylon Burks at 3,000 over Philip.
That's actually a good call.
Yeah, I like that.
That's like the Van Jefferson call from a couple weeks ago, where he was 3K because he was still designated.
Yep, good stuff. All right, fellas, that wraps the podcast up. Let's go around the room real quick. Give us your Twitter handle and plug the Facebook group. We'll go to you first, Tim.
Yeah, of course. Get in the DFS Roundtable group on Facebook. I do a weekly thread every week where I post the best charts and graphs from all over the internet, and that gets you ready for the week, gets me ready for the show. Twitter, find me at Keto DFS.
Good stuff. Gerson?
Yeah, you can find me at the DFS Roundtable. I almost gonna say my Twitter name along with the same thing. I'm like at Fantasy GDFS on Twitter. Last week I posted a picture of my plays on Twitter. I'm gonna do that again because I actually had a few people DM me and said thank you for putting that out, and it helped them out. Except for Scott. Scott made fun of it. He said I'm gonna keep a receipt because you didn't play Justin Field in cash. Like my plays aren't for cash, bro. Kidding, Scott. But yeah, find me there. Dude, get on the DFS Roundtable. The thing that Tim posts, like, I take that like the Bible, man. That thing on lunch break almost every day. I make sure all the free, dude. Like, it's like free money almost if you win. It's just it's good stuff. No pun intended, Jeff. And then you can find me on the Sunday show this Sunday. I will be on there. Last week I couldn't make it, but I'll be there with hopefully Zach and Benny and Jamie. But until then, I'll see you guys Sunday. Show up for the answer to the test, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to plug the same thing that Zach is back this week. He had some personal things going on, but he is back this week. He'll be hosting the show. I believe Jamie and Benny are also in for the show. And, of course, Gerson will be there. He missed last week. So it'll be the full complement of people on Sunday morning. If you don't watch the Sunday morning show, you were definitely missing out. There are some good things that they talk about right before the game starts. So you want to watch that show for sure. All right, that's a wrap. And next week, I forgot, Tim. You got to remind me. Next week will be a different day. We're gonna have the podcast on Saturday night just for next week because I have to go Friday to a field trip. I'm a chaperone. I got to be on a bus for 3.5 hours with a whole bunch of fourth graders. So when I get home from that at 9:30 at night, I'm not going to want to do a podcast. So we're going to push it one day till Saturday. And then the following week is Thanksgiving week, which if you've watched the show for a while, we don't do a Friday show because it's Black Friday. We move the show to Wednesday, and we'll break down the Thanksgiving slate and then also the main slate as well. So the next 2 weeks will be a little bit different. Check out Saturday show next week, and then Wednesday the show after that. And Joe, I see your question there. Is it a pumpkin patch? No, we're actually going to Williamsburg and Jamestown for all day. I got to be there at 6 a.m. in the morning, and we don't get home till 9:30 at night. So it's going to be a hell of a day. So, all right, fellas, that's a wrap. We will see you next week on Saturday. You're on mute, Tim. You missed it.
Damn it! Go, Pat, go!
There you go. There you go.